G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Stu, that's Dyl, and we are the Fantasy Bros. We're very excited to have once again partnered with GameDay Squad this NRL season to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League in 2026. It's Wednesday. You know what that means? Team List Tuesday has dropped. We've got plenty of points to discuss for all things round 9, which will actually kick off on Friday this week. The Friday 6 p.m. time slot will be the first game of the round, given that Thursday time slot will be taken up by the Women's State of Origin. Let's see if Queenslanders can get on the board in 2026 previews and reveal the players that we hope will take us up those leaderboards. Let's go around the grounds. How did you go in the Anzac round, which was quite special and quite emotional?
Yeah, g'day Stu, g'day viewers and listeners. Yeah, definitely it's something that we enjoy each and every year. The Anzac spirit strong across all of the games, and the commemoration of the Anzacs before each of the games. They're very emotional. They're very special. And each one had a little bit of a different take on it. So it was great to see. Great to see the Warriors over in New Zealand as well, and put on a really special performance there for all the Anzacs. Yeah, look. Round 8, another great week for us as well in terms of some results. Second in Challenger for me, and it was all about Dyl Edwards and a couple of other players on that Sunday, Cleary, Fogarty as well. And I absolutely flew home in Challenger. I moved from, I think I was about 13th going into Sunday, and ended up finishing second on the leaderboard in Challenger. So it obviously came about. I put Dewey into my Challenger side, thinking that might be a little bit of a pod play. Thursday night, I closed the app, open the app, close the app, open up about 50 times throughout that game just to see his score skyrocket. And the moment that I didn't have him in my champion side, I just had to load up my challenger side with all of those players. So yeah, the Diamond Dyl Edwards, the Diamond Cleary, and a few others meant that I was able to get into that second spot. But mate, more importantly, there's a big golden ticket there next to your name.
I can rest easy Sundays now, put my feet up a little bit more, and the pressure will be on you. Given that I have now secured my spot in that Sunday Showdown first place, thanks to I think a number of Panthers players as well, similar to you, with Dyl Edwards' massive score. I think it was Brian Toto, Paul Alamotti, that combination on the right-hand side that absolutely tore the Newcastle Knights a left edge to bits. Obviously, Toto has had a pretty down season. It's been all things Tom Milky Jenkins, but look, he must have been the difference, because I didn't think I actually picked the perfect squad. I think I made a few mistakes, and yeah, to open up the app and see I come in first. Actually, I couldn't even load the app for about half an hour. You had to tell me, and XRP, Matty, who joined me on the Sunday stream, was already in my DM saying a big congrats. So yeah, big shout out to XRP. Thanks for that conversation, mate. That is partly your responsibility, I think. Well done. So Dyl, yeah, the pressure's on you now for the Sunday Showdown. Let's see if we can get you across the line as well. It didn't end there, though. Second in champion, I had that same quartet of players that you just mentioned before, including the red Fogarty, and wasn't that try from 50 out something special? It certainly made me celebrate, but also cry a little bit because he wasn't doing that in the mighty green colours. And to top things off, third in the under 24. So I had a spot on the podium across 3 different comps. Yeah, very pleased with the round, not just on a personal level, but obviously the Fantasy Bros across the AFL and the football competitions as well. It's great to see that logo on so many leaderboards. And look, I think it's fair that we pump our tyres whenever we can. And obviously, you know, some of the work we're doing on and off the cameras is obviously paying off, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The pressure is on, though. Obviously, Petty over on the AFL side, the Fantasy Bros AFL team, he's qualified for Sunday Showdown. You've qualified for Sunday Showdown. So, yeah, a bit of pressure on me. But that's a good point to make. XRP made the same point, that when he qualified for the Sunday Showdown, he left out one of the biggest scorers of the weekend in Adama Ho, who ended up on a 97, I think. So he didn't play him in that game. So it's not necessarily picking every high-scoring player in that Sunday Showdown. It's all about the combinations and the rarities as well, and the way that you balance your salary. So I think that's super important to remind viewers and listeners that it's not always about picking the perfect side. It's also about some strategy around that salary, which we try and get to, and we try and talk about in that Sunday Showdown show as well. But as you can see, plenty of success across all competitions. And we're going to be coming to you live each and every Wednesday, as we've already done 9 times previously. Remember, it is a 6 p.m. kickoff, so it's a little bit earlier than usual. Plus, we'll be live every Sunday afternoon for that Sunday Showdown competition as well. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already to keep up to date with all of those shows. We've also got the AFL boys coming to you at 7:30. Our weekly Wednesday shows, remember, as always, we're going to preview who we think the best plays are across the competition, as well as those bench spots. A super important thing that we've got to consider is how we're going to play around with our bench. We're going to discuss those start sits, as well as reveal a couple of different squads. We've obviously started to build a bit of a partnership with JT and the Primetime, the Stats Lab, and we start talking through the Primetime competition as well. It's a real doozy this week. As you said, no footy on Thursday. We've only got the Friday to consider, and it's looking pretty good there. We'll touch on some under 24 players that we want to get into our sides and probably load up a bit of salary on. And then, of course, we'll have a bit of a chat about this FantasyBros Sunday Showdown. And as always, our favourite segment, the BroDown Showdown segment, where viewers, listeners can win some Unreal cards. I know we gave a diamond away last week. Some juiced packs as well, now that the legend has increased. I know we did the pack attack earlier in the week on the NRL and AFL side, and we had 12 unique packs, and every single one of them had multiple diamonds in. So really good opportunity to get a few cards now. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to all of our socials. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Facebook, Insta, you name it, we're on it. Make sure you search at FantasyBros AU.
It's also not too late to get involved either. New users, get some friends, get some family members signed up, and get the competition happening in the household as well. New users can sign up on the app or on the website using our code FBRL26. They'll get 3x9 player common packs, which give them a whole heap of cards to get some challenger and classic sides built, as well as a whole heap of bronze cards to get that starter squad rolling. And look, who knows? They could even build a team that gets them a spot into the Sunday Showdown. It's just all about the priorities, and that we can, and going a little bit different than everyone else could be your ticket into the finals. We got we got Sif Kanga, of course, in the chat. Howdy. Let's get rowdy once again. How'd you go on the weekend, mate? Let us know, anyone else in the chat as well, if you've got any start sit questions, because Dyl, we're going to rip into it and start looking at those players now. We'll start off with the hookers. We've got the Dragons on the bye this round, so no Damien Cook. And look, some Dragons forwards, despite their disappointing form on the field in terms of their win-loss record, some of those players have been pretty handy, particularly their forwards for our fantasy sides. But we won't have them this round. In terms of our strongly considers in the hooker position, we've got Blake Brayley, Harry Grant, Reece Robson. Couple of points of difference in Jaden Brayley, Phoenix Crossland. And if you're looking for any hookers to fade, I wouldn't go anywhere near Wade Egan or Bronson and Garlic. Dyl, let's get into it. The strongly considers. Is it down to really Blake Brayley, Harry Grant this round? And who are you going with?
Yeah, I think it's a really safe pick. And look, a couple of people last week talked about the safety in Brayley. And I think once again from that list, I think it's just a really simple one. Cook played 80 last week with Little not in the side, and he couldn't get over that 50-point mark. So it was a little bit disappointing from Cook. Obviously, the tougher matchup. So Cook's on the bye as well. The forgotten man last week in Harry Grant, he was able to get almost to 60 at that 58, despite the Storm being absolutely pumped by the Rabbitohs last week. But I think it's Brayley who's been rewarding the safety and the safe coaches. A 70-point effort last week. That included a try, which we don't really associate with Brails too often. He's now got a pretty tough matchup against the Tigers, who are allowing the lowest average score for hookers. We said that a couple of weeks ago with the Roosters, and we said maybe we shouldn't play Brayley. And look, that didn't work out for us. So he ended up pumping out a 65 there. That included 3 try assists as well. So I think Brayley's probably that safe play. It's a simple play, and maybe don't overthink that. Look for some risks other places. Brayley's also available for the Sunday Showdown, so I think he's going to be highly played there. So maybe there might be some opportunity where you might look for a potential point of difference. Still for me, someone like Harry Grant, he's just still missing too many tackles, giving up too many demerits, and is fluctuating scores are just something that I don't like at the moment. Until I see something a little bit more consistent from the whole Storm team, it's a struggle to get to Harry Grant at the moment. So for me, it's a pretty simple one in Blake Brayley, but there are some other options outside of that. A couple of really decent pods with another last name, or the same last name, excuse me, a different first name in Jaden Brayley. He's been named to start at lock for the Raiders. Aaron Clark just scored 72 against the Titans, who the Raiders are coming up against in round 7 before the Titans went on the bye. And he did that with only 46 minutes on the field. I'm not sure how long Brayley's going to be on the field. There's obviously a bit of rotation happening there. They've got Dane Laurie, Stewart, and Owen Paddy on the bench. So I'm not sure what that hooker rotation and then what that forward rotation looks like. But if we see Jay Bray with some big minutes, that could be a potential point of difference for a lot of coaches.
Mate, that bench is so strange. I think Ricky Stewart has either lost the plot or has seen something in the NRL that not many of us have, and maybe he's going for the small body approach. We've seen, a bit of a shift in forwards in the smaller body. I think the Jackson Fords, the Alex Twiles having a bit more success through the middle there, and he's gone one step further and just got little blokes only on the bench. To be honest, I do not think they're going to roll out that 1 to 13 or even 1 to 17 for that matter. We might see Jaden Brayley move back to the bench, and Morgan Smithies might start there. But who knows with Ricky Stewart, mate. If we get Jaden Brayley as a number 13 and close to 80 minutes as a tackle bot, he won't do a lot with the footy, but he will certainly be a decent shout. It's just so difficult to predict. The other player in that side is Tommy Starling as well. And I think he's got some appeal too, because we saw a number of games last season where Owen Paddy was the hooker on the bench, and Tom Starling did stay on the field when Paddy came on in a lock sort of role. And if Ricky does want these smaller bodies on the park and Starlo's getting back closer to 80 minutes, he could become fantasy relevant pretty quickly as well. For me, can't go near either of those Raiders hookers. We just want to see how it plays out. And look, maybe if it clicks and it works, it might be a conversation that we have in a bit more detail next week. Finally, Phoenix Crossland. He's pretty boring. He's not amazing. But what do you like about Phoenix Crossland? Is he a potential if we don't have any Blake Brayley cards?
Yeah, look, we'll get to some comments in a minute. There's some really good comments there. I want to catch up with Ganners soon. But yeah, look, Crossland for me, it probably a decent pod shout. I wouldn't throw everything at him necessarily. The Knights up against the Rabbits, and it is part of the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown. So you probably might get a piece of Crossland in that particular competition rather than the full slate. So far this season, Crossland's played close to 80 minutes in every game. He's only missed 6 minutes across all games so far, and I think it was stints of about 77 across 2 games that really he didn't get those couple of minutes there. And we see him obviously moving from that hooker role, starting at dummy half, and then potentially going back into that lock role when that rotation starts to occur. And through that, he's just been racking up base stats purely in tackles. Another tackle bot making 45 per game, and it's really something that we don't want to rely on his run game, because at the moment he's averaging 20 meters per run. And he had 2 games where he didn't run a single meter at all with the ball. So don't rely on that. It's really just all about those tackles. I guess the downside is he's still missing 4 tackles per game, like a lot of our hooker options are. So he's giving up a handy 12 points on top of that 45 that we're getting there. So the thing I do like is the Rabbitohs have given up an average of 58 GDS points to starting hookers over the last month. So there is some vulnerability there if you are keen to get around Crossland. But I think for me, I'm going to keep him purely for the Sunday Showdown. I've had him in there the last couple of weeks now. He rewarded us with the try last week. Let's see if he can do something similar on the Showdown.
Yeah, fantastic. It's so funny. You and I sit here talking about hookers for 10 minutes and we just both roll out Blake Brayley in as many teams as possible. But if you're not as fortunate as us and don't have enough Blake Brayley cards to fill out those squads, hopefully we can tip you into someone there. Let's get to a few comments before we move on to the middles. We've got Matty P, the Circus Crew, joining us once again. G'day, mate. Sif Kanga is going for Brails. Let us know which one, mate. We got 2 on the screen. No, I'm sure you're going for Blake. Gannis, cheers for the round win last week, legends. Still, I'm going to give you a chance to respond in a moment. Have a think about how you want to approach this. I know it's a bit raw for you, but well done, Gannis, on, I think it was the Challenger win last week. And just before we get to you, Dill, big shout out to friend of the show, Max Higgins. I know he's watching along, got pen in hand and taking plenty of notes so he can pick that perfect team that's going to get him featured on that leaderboard. Wouldn't that be great to see his team name there? G'day, Max. Thanks for the support, buddy. Righto, Dill. What do you got to say about Gannis's win over there in Challenger?
It's a great win, and I love that someone that's been a fan of the show and has joined us, pretty much each and every week, and you can see his team, his name there, Gannis AFL. He's obviously from that AFL side. GDS and has come across. And just quietly, we had a little DM chat Monday morning or Monday afternoon, and he put it down to all of the advice that we've been giving him. No. Shout out to Ganners. He's done really well. And it's great to see some guys coming across from AFL, just like I'm over in the AFL space, and I'm dominating over there in the starter comp as well. But I digress.
Absolutely. Top of that ladder. Alrighty, middle forwards. Strongly considers. We've got a couple of Tigers options there. We got the three staples, Terrell May, Jackson Ford, Alex Twal. A couple of Broncos as point of differences without Payne Haas. We'll talk about what impact that might have and whether or not Paddy Carrigan or Xavier Willison might be good shouts this round. We don't want to go anywhere near AFB or Cam Murray. If you think they're going to go well, you want to go against us, feel free to roll them out. Both averaging a tick under 50, but we think there are plenty of other options here on screen. One guy who's not on screen before I throw to you, Dyl, Isaiah Yeo. I know you wanted to pencil him in as a bit of a pod. I still think he's going to be fairly played, given that we've seen a bit more fantasy relevance from him of late. And I think it's really coming down to that Mitch Kenny injury. Jack Cogger was sort of coming on him and replacing Isaiah Yeo for 15 or 20 minutes as a bit of a ball running 13. Ivan Cleary's sort of not trusting any other hooker or in Freddie Lussick to see longer than sort of 60 minutes, and that's sort of where Jack Cogger is being used. So Isaiah Yeo finally back to fantasy relevance, I think, and I'm pretty solid here on those four being my four middles, and I'll probably play three edges this week. Are you in a similar boat there?
Yeah, I think we're aligned here really well. May, 12, Ford, and Yeo is sort of the first four that I put into the side, along with Latrell May down the Latrell down the bottom. And I think it's just purely based on the output that we're seeing from all of those blokes. The Yeo one, obviously, we've seen a little bit of a change there based on the Cogger role. But rather than talking through the reasons, why or why not we're going to play these players, it's just simply just an easy way to go ahead and have a look at something that we spend a lot of time looking at, and that's the base and power output of these middle forwards in particular. It's not so much about the matchup, it's all about the output. And we're getting 12 with 44 tackles, 150 running meters and 2 tackle breaks. That's 65 GDS points in base and power there. May, on the other hand, 33 tackles, 160 running meters, and almost 5 tackle breaks. He's almost pushing 65 GDS in base and power as well. So we know that both of them have a little bit of upside. Twal obviously had a try assist. I think his first try assist of all time was last weekend. So it was great to see that he had a try assist. But that's the reason why we're playing these blokes. And I don't think we need to overthink it. I don't think we need to get cute about any of it. Ford spending 80 minutes on the park through the middle, I think it's really easy to see why these blokes are the top scoring players in this position. And it's really simple to go back to the well with these guys.
Yeah, absolutely right. If we're playing those four pretty confidently across all four sides, all of our main sides, if people want to get a little bit different, we've got a couple of Broncos players there on screen. Out of Paddy Carrigan and Xavier Willison, who might appeal to you a little bit more and why? And are you rolling any of these guys out in any sides this round?
I am keen on both of them. I was pretty high on Willison last week, named at lock. He's now named on the edge, and that might change. That role might change. If I see the 24-hour or the 90-minute mail and it's changed where Carrigan goes into the front row, where we have seen him play before, and Willison moves to that lock role, I think I'm going to lock Willison into a couple of sides as that big point of difference, because we saw the 70-plus minutes that he's playing without Haas on the park, and obviously, Carrigan wasn't there last week. I think if Willison remains on the edge, I think it's a big fade. And it obviously changes dramatically there. The Roosters are really strong against that left edge in attack, and they're only allowing 35 GDS points. So I don't see a world where Willison's going to have a big game. He's obviously going to make plenty of tackles, and he's got a little bit of upside there on the edge, but I think it's really him playing through the middle is where I want to see. So if he's not named through the middle, if Paddy Carrigan stays there, then Paddy Carrigan becomes someone that I'm more interested in, really similar to what Gannis has said here. He loves Paddy C this week, and I think it's that return and that workload that he's going to take up with no Payne Haas there.
Paddy Carrigan will definitely be hungry after missing 2 matches through suspension there. Since 2024, he's played 13 matches without Payne Haas in the side. He's averaging just shy of 60 GDS points, 59.7 in 73 minutes. Just the one game this season against the Dolphins in round 4. Played all 80 minutes, scored 60 points, all in base, 52 tackles, 170 run meters. Did miss 5 tackles, which turned a pretty massive score into a decent one in 60. Nothing to be too worried about there. A penalty conceded and a 6 again. That could have been a huge score without Payne Haas. Not a lot of sample size for 2026. But if he can repeat that sort of effort, you'd have to expect that he'd definitely be a pretty safe play. Just on Xavier Willison, I can't see him staying on the edge. Surely he's, like you said, far more dominant through the middle there. They've got Jack Goz. They've got who else? Jaden Hunt, who can probably spend some time there on the edge. Surely Willison doesn't see all 80 there. You'd expect a bit of a hybrid role. And unfortunately, we probably just won't find out early enough to sort of make that change. So I think I'm going to load up on Willison in my under 24s in terms of I'm going to throw a heap of salary on him and just hope that comes off. But like you said, we got plenty of safe guys there in the 3 on screen, plus Isaiah Yeo, plus Paddy Carrigan. Willison could be pretty poor, if he does spend the 80 on the edge there. Anyone else that interests you in the middle forward position?
Not really. Gannis has put a question out and thoughts on Uda Ikamanu. That was his pod last week, and it was a great pod shout. Uda Ikamanu finished with 64 GDS points. For me, I'm still concerned by the whole Melbourne side and what is happening there at the moment, and they're really not clicking and it's not coming together. The other thing I'm concerned with is the previous month of football before that, where Uda Ikamanu is averaging about 40 GDS points. And I don't want to have that happen to me again, where I know that I've got these blokes in May, Ford, Twal, etc., that are putting out big numbers, at least similar to Uda Ikamanu. I don't think there's a whole lot of difference there if we get a game like we did last week for Stefano. If he scores 64 and Twal scores 59, 60, I'm not too concerned about that. There's not going to be a gaping difference between the two of them, I don't think. So for me, it's just a hold off on Uda Ikamanu at the moment until we see some more consistency.
Just don't think the minutes are there. 48 minutes again on the weekend just gone. 5 tackle breaks and an offload is super impressive. A few more run meters, third most run meters for the weekend, for the season for Stefano, but just the minutes that aren't there. He played 60 twice in the first 3 weeks of the competition for 51, 70 and 62, but he's seen, 50 or less for 5 of the past 6. Just can't sort of trust there. And with a bit of a different back row look with McDonald there and Lasardi coming back, and who knows what Craig Bellamy has done during the week or what his plans are for this round. They've got to do something different. Maybe it is the week that, Stefano gets that 60, 65 minutes and just is damaging the whole time. I don't think I need to get there. It can be a pretty low floor. The other guys we've spoken about certainly provide a bit more safety. Mate, we've been loading up on plenty of edge forwards lately. It was really difficult to sort of put our notes together for the edge forward positions this week, wasn't it? Given there are 13 players that we could select from playing this round that average between 50 and 60 points. As you can see on screen there are so many 57s, 56s, 58s in terms of averages. Where do you really go? We've even got some fades that are averaging pretty well just because of the matchup that is presented. So we'll start with the strongly considers. Sua Wong gets that Broncos matchup. Hamole Olakuatu, the last game of the round against Penrith. I want to hear your thoughts there. And Tallis Duncan coming off that 3-try effort against the Melbourne Storm. If you can score a hattie from the back row against them, you've got to be in consideration most weeks, don't you? Where are you going in terms of your edge forwards?
Yeah, I'll kick us off with Olakuatu because I think that's probably a little bit more of a spicy call given the matchup against the Panthers. The Panthers are obviously running through the competition at the moment, unless your team is the Bulldogs, but they're still allowing some GDS points to be had across a number of positions, but in particular, it's the right side edge forwards that they're allowing. Last week against the Knights, they did limit McEwen to only 33, but previously 70 points to Fini Fuiaki, 83 to that massive Preston game that we were going to fade him, 48 even to Joe Chan the week before that. It's a 4-week rolling average of almost 60 GDS points. So obviously, Fosball is in full effect. He probably went away and is looking at the footage of Preston absolutely destroying Blaise Talangi down that side. And Fogarty in the form that he's in, we are fading Fogarty, little spoiler for a bit later. But I think there's every opportunity for Fogs to be hitting Ola on those short balls all game, to just be targeting Blaze Talangi. And I think I'm going to get myself a piece of Ola Kawatu, not just in that's FantasyBros Sunday Showdown, but in a lot of my teams across the full slate, because of the upside that we can see, purely based on some of those numbers that we've seen over the last month of footy. So for me, Ola Kawatu might be a little bit spicier than some of the others. There's obviously some definite upside to Ola Kawatu, but Siwa Wong is a player that I think we've been on the last couple of weeks. And as you said, he's got that Broncos matchup that I think we're just going to target until they start being able to tackle. At the moment, that left edge of the Broncos defensively, they're just in all sorts. Wong has been great the last few weeks as well. He's gone 69, 66, and 60 the last 3 weeks. The positive for me is it's not just try scoring and attacking upside, but since moving back into that 80-minute role that we didn't see at the start of the season, he's averaging almost 40 tackles per game, 120 running meters per game, and then 3 tackle breaks as well. And it's over 3 tackle breaks. So I think it's 3.3 that he's running at the moment. So there's plenty of base and power there if he doesn't fall over the line for a try. But I don't see any reason why he couldn't in this game. They're obviously going to be, we're targeting that left defensive side where Wong's going to be lining up, particularly against Mam out of everyone. He continues to fall off tackles, adding another 5 last week. He's now leading the missed tackle count for all halves this season. I think it's 37 that he's on at the moment. So no doubt we'll see Wong running over the top of them. If Willison does stay there, he's also missing 21 tackles himself so far this season. So I know Piakura was a big matchup for us that we were liking, he missing tackles. But if Willison stays there, I'd say he fills in that role for Piakura. And 21 tackles himself. Shibasaki's missed plenty. I think he's on 17 or so. So there's plenty of opportunity for Sia Wong to have another massive game.
Yeah, I love that too. And Teddy's going to be probing down that edge with DC as well. They're going to be they're definitely going to have done their homework, and they'll see that Ezra Mam stat. They'll see Willison there, that big body that may not be able to move as laterally as someone a little bit lower to the ground. I think he's 200 and something centimeters, which is insane. So yeah, I think the rest is going to be too good to take advantage of that. I love the Siwa Wong play. He would definitely be in a number of my teams as well. The Halmolly shout. Yeah, gee, whenever someone's up against Penrith, it's almost easy just to put a line through them. But it is that back row right edge spot that's doing a whole heap of damage. And it's, Blaze Talangi. And look, if it works, why change anything? If teams have done any homework against the Penrith Panthers, it's attacking that spot there. I'll have to reconsider a Halmolly start in my side, given those numbers there, mate. Tallis Duncan, we saw his attacking upside in the Rabbits on both sides of the field. He popped up on the left at times as well, predominantly on the right there. He was making Cameron Munster look like a park footballer, the way he was just able to brush him off, and Munster sort of hit the ground, threw his head up and, threw his head back and go, oh no, I've let him in again. But look, 100 points there against the Melbourne Storm. Obviously not in much form of late, 5 on the trot, I think it might be. But to score 100 points as a back rower against them is definitely pretty impressive. He'll probably be up against that improved Sharp and Dylan Lucas edge if Lucas does pass that fitness test and does return this week there for the Knights. But he's still averaging 150 metres and about 30 tackles on that edge, Tallis Duncan is. We know that he's got a tremendous line running and therefore try scoring upside. I think he's got that pretty safe floor with every chance of scoring a few points as well. And that could be the difference between, going with the pack and getting a whole heap of solid 50s or 60s. But one of these edge back rowers scoring a try or two that can jump you into the 70s or the 80s, that could be what differentiates you from the pack. Mate, tell us your thoughts on Tallis Duncan.
Yeah, I'm keen. I think, to be honest, though, he probably should have one of those tries taken off him. I think that one that he bobbled first, I think Munster might have got a fingertip to that. But yeah, look, he's been unreal. And I guess we've only really looked at him in terms of the under-24 competition. He's been a really good option there. And I think now he's coming into that realm of playing in that full slate squad, and I think he's going to be a player that a lot of people are going to go to. I know there was a few whispers on Discord about not playing as legend from a certain person in Discord, so hopefully he can get to him this week. But there's plenty of questions in the chat if we want to get to some of the questions before we get through some pods. Sif Kanga, firstly, any love for Dyl Lucas, or is he on the watch list this week? For me, he's on the watch list. We said it a couple of weeks ago with Preston, and look what happened to that. But I am going to fade Lucas this week. the Rabbitohs are allowing 48 down that side. So I'm just going to watch and wait and see what he looks like. Obviously, we've got Kalen Ponga back, Fletcher Sharp, obviously fit and firing. And that team is starting to look a lot more well-rounded. So I want to see what the Knights look like. If they go back to round one form, where we saw over in Vegas, then yeah, I think I'm going to get all over Dill Lucas, but I just can't get there this week. Is that something similar for you?
Yeah, no, with the amount of options we've got, look, Dill Lucas is always pretty solid, but anyone coming back from injury, safety Stu over here, always pretty hesitant to plug someone straight in when we've got plenty of other options. If we were short, if it was a bye round, a state of origin affected type round, then yeah, maybe I consider it. But no, I don't think you need to go early. Even if he outscores a few of these guys on the list, it's probably not going to be by too much. Skips mentioned Jacob Preston, the guy that we don't seem to be able to get right. Sat him for about an 86. Keep playing him for 40 odds, and it's just not happening for Jacob Preston. A 42 and a 38 in his last two. I have heard that he is sort of getting needled a little bit to manage an injury or two, so he's probably not at full fitness, and that's probably having an impact in some of his scores. He just hasn't found that consistency there on the right edge with Lockie Galvin. Despite the Dogs playing pretty well in patches, but also pretty poor in other matches as well. When they're firing, that's when Galvin and that Preston combination go well. When the Bronx and even the Eels are running over the top of them, it's just not there for Jacob Preston. So in a week where we've got so many options, look, Jacob Preston was on my radar until Dill started talking a bit about Olakau'atu and reminding me about that Blaze Talangi matchup. I think he sneaks ahead of Jacob Preston there for me. We've got SC Punish reminding us about Tony Sukar coming back from oblivion. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Name a player you haven't thought of in a long while, and now he's making a start there on the edge in place of Kai Pearce-Paul. Dill, we've got a couple of mentions here for Simi Sasungi. Sif Kanga, I think, was the first mention of Simi Sasungi returning from that hamstring injury, subject to a fitness test. The big difference is he won't have the centre position on his back anymore. He'll be playing in the back row, given the plethora of injuries to Raiders. Shout out there to Noah Martin. I think the double ankle reconstruction or surgery to fix those two injuries that he suffered at different stages throughout that same match. So, Raiders in all sorts there. But that just means Simi Sasungi a little bit closer to the ball. Does that mean his base stats improve? Does his attack go down? Is he still a reliable play this round, despite returning from the hammy and a different number on his back?
It's funny, where the first 6 weeks of the round, we were too scared to get a edge back rower into our side who's playing in the centre. The 1 week we start to get keen on him, he goes down injured. And then he's moved into the edge back row, and I'm not interested in him at all. Purely based on the matchup, but also with the question marks around his fitness and how agile and how good he will be with ball in hand, more so than the tackle ability. But it's the Titans matchup that you would think that the Titans are allowing plenty of points across the park, but they're actually limiting. I'm assuming he's going to play on the right side like he has been normally. You might be able to give us a bit more insight there, but I'm assuming he's playing on the right side. If he is, the Titans are restricting right side edges to 48 GDS points this season. The high score against them is a 64 from Fini Fuiaki. So there is some doubt there that he can go big against them. They obviously, the Titans are a bit better at wrapping the ball up on that side of the field rather than the other side of the field. So for me, again, you talked about it, 13 potential blokes that we could go to that are genuine options. And I'm looking for some really little minor details that are going to mean the difference between a big score and maybe a 50 that we might expect from some of these blokes. And that's just a little detail for me that just based on that matchup data.
Yeah, and then you couple that with soft tissue hamstring injury subject to fitness test. It's got early injury written all over it, or an increased chance of early injury written all over it, and something that could really derail your week, particularly if you've started the week with a bit of a poor score elsewhere. Mate, you did mention Fine Fuiaki. I know you like him this round as well. Across maybe 5 teams, we could even potentially put him into. Let us know your thoughts on him quickly before we move on to the halves.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. He could feature in every single one of our teams, which I don't think we've said that for Fini Fuiaki yet. He is just absolutely unreal on the right edge for the Dolphins at the moment. They're at their second home, or maybe even their first home, Suncorp Stadium. I'm not quite sure. I feel like they've been there more than anywhere else this season so far, up against the Storm. I'm actually heading to that game Friday night, so it's going to be difficult for me to leave him out of my side because I want to cheer him on live. But look, he's a legit option across all of the competitions, the primetime, under 24s, we've been rolling them out, and then into the full round slate as well. The Storm, obviously, we just talked about it. They allowed Tallis Duncan to absolutely rip tear them to shreds. And look, he pumped out a ton, so I can see something similar happen in this game. Across the season, irrespective of that, they're still allowing an average of 56 to right side edge forwards, the Storm are. So even if Fini Fuiaki doesn't cross the line, I think there's plenty of upside for some tackle breaks for a lot of base stats. And then maybe he does cross the line. We've seen it quite a few times already this season. So yeah, give me all the shares of Fini Fuiaki this week across, like you said, probably 5 comps.
Yeah, he'll absolutely be in plenty of mine as well. I've actually got a deal with someone for a Fini Fuiaki diamond for my Reece Walsh. They're just going a bit quiet and won't pull the trigger on that trade. I'm not sure why, but hopefully that'll come through before Friday, so I can roll him into my.
They're just making me sweat, mate. They're just keeping you at bay. All right.
Let's move on to halves. The GDS GOAT in Nathan Cleary, averaging 78. We don't need to say too much about Nathan Cleary. Look, if you own a Nathan Cleary card, he should be in your side. We've got him for Sunday. Once again, I rolled out a diamond, and maybe that was why maybe some coaches got a bit caught out by not having that spare diamond or only playing a gold or something. But look, we were talking off air, and we thought that
All right, I have no idea what happened here. I'm not sure if Stu's dropped out or if I have dropped out. Alrighty, I'm going to push on. Hopefully he comes back in a moment. Apologies for that. I think Skip must be in the chat because it looks like Stewie's laptop has just completely exploded. Alrighty, let's jump in. Obviously, he was talking about Cleary. We'll move on from Cleary. I think the next best matchup for me outside of the Cleary shout is going to be the Tanner Boyd matchup. The thing for me, though, is going to be the Metcalf effect and whether that comes into play or not. At the moment, Metcalf is named in that 20 jersey. And we've talked at length across a number of shows now about the impact that Metcalf has when he is in the side alongside Boyd, and the difference between scores for Boyd without Metcalf versus with is just ridiculous. So I'm keen for the Boyd matchup if Metcalf is not named to join him in the halves. So we have to keep an eye on that, obviously, 24 hours and 90 minutes before that game. But look, the Warriors head over to Combank up against the Eels, who are absolutely struggling. They're struggling across the park in a lot of areas. And I think this is a really good opportunity for Boyd to really put it to the sword. The Eels have allowed an average of 74 GDS points to right halves over the last 5 weeks. I threw out Fogarty as a key play last week for me due to that matchup. He returned an 86 point performance. And then, obviously, as I said at the top of the show, gave me that second place in Challenger, which was absolutely unreal. I think, for me, it can pretty much be repeated. The similar stats, the similar conversation that I had about Fogarty can be said about Tanner Boyd up against the Eels. The Eels have allowed 5 tries to right halves over the last 5 weeks. They've allowed 20 goals to be kicked, and they've allowed 6 try assists. Boyd's been doing all of that for the Warriors already. So I see a world where Boyd just adds to those stats that are piling up against the Eels at the moment in terms of those right side halves. And I think for me, Boyd's the key reason why the Warriors are second on the ladder at the moment. But as I said, Stu, welcome back, mate. As I said, the Metcalf effect is going to be the big one. And we're going to have to keep a close eye on that. If Metcalf is named, I will really doubt whether I play Boyd or not. And it might be there's going to have to be a pivot option. I guess the good part of that is that they're first up on the Saturday afternoon. So we should be able to know nice and early and be able to make some pivots there if we need to.
Yeah, Metcalf named in the number 20 jersey there, also named in New South Wales Cup. Let's get plenty of reps in there in New South Wales Cup, I think. The boys are doing fantastically well without him. Gee, wouldn't it be funny if he does make a return straight into the 5'8" jersey and they suffer a loss against the Eels there. Yeah, look, I'm not sure where you got. Sorry about that. Skip obviously had something to do with that internet connection, that device malfunction. Once again, my apologies. Did we talk about Nicho Hynes?
You're back. We haven't got there yet, mate. I just spent the whole time talking about Tanner Boyd because I haven't talked about him enough. Yeah, so just before I left, I was saying that there is one man there not on the screen. And look, I'm pretty keen on 4 blokes in Cleary, Campbell, Boyd, and Nicho Hynes. But gee, never thought I'd hear the day that you're actually pretty strong an advocate for putting Hynes on the fade list. Let us know if that was true. Yeah, I'm going to steal a line from Fantasy Bro Pity. I tuned in a couple of weeks ago and he said, look, I'm not fading the bloke. I'm just deciding not to play him. And for me, like you said, it doesn't happen very often. I'm not fading my man in Nicho Hynes. I'm just choosing not to play him because I think there's some better matchups. And look, the matchup data isn't super favorable up against the Tigers. Right halves against the Tigers this season have scored an average of 44 GDS points. So we compare that to what I just said about Tanner Boyd and his matchup. We compare that to someone like Jake Clifford and the potential matchup that he has as well. For me, Hynes is just outside. Stu, you mentioned KPP going out, Tony Suka replacing him. There could be a difference there. Obviously, Suka hasn't had a lot of NRL experience. We haven't seen him for a long time. It's going to be a difficult play for him, I think, coming back into that side, not playing for a long period of time. The defensive structure is going to be interesting. So it's definitely going to be one of those games where I'm going to be watching that Sharks-Tigers game, probably hiding behind my couch, hands in front of my face, hoping that Hynes has a decent game, but not a great game. And that could blow up in my face for sure. But for me, I think there's some better options outside of Hynes at the moment.
Yeah, certainly those 3 in the strongly considers in Cleary, Campbell and Boyd can't really go too wrong with them averaging above Hynes for the season as well. I just think the Sharkies and Nicho are a bit of a different outfit there at Ocean Protect, getting that home game, a couple of Tigers out through injury. They are on a roll, but if they're ever weakened, it's probably this week, without their gun young fullback and KPP, who's causing a lot of damage there on the edge, and that's the edge that Nicho's going to target. Mate, we'll run through some pods very quickly if you want to get a little bit funky with your halves. Both pretty keen on a Lockie Galvin matchup because the Cowboys keep getting dismantled on that side of the field. The Cowboys left simply cannot defend. We've attacked that edge in recent weeks, with Hynes and Fogarty putting up huge numbers. Obviously, both goal kickers, and that's probably where they get the bigger boost there on Galvin. But look, even if you take out their goal kicking, I think the average is still just above 60 as well. He's actually getting through a lot more kicking meters than we'd probably expect or really thought would happen, because Matty Burton, he's averaged just 80 kick meters in the past 3 weeks. What is going on with that? I think he got through 32 in the weekend just gone. There must be some sort of issue there. But look, if you're a Lockie Galvin truther and think he can take advantage of that Cowboys left edge, then I think he's in for a pretty decent score there as well. I'd imagine he'd be fairly popular on the Stats Lab primetime competition. Any love there for him, mate, or maybe Tyron Wishart, a bit of a favourite of the chat here. Who was that? Was that someone's favourite player? Sif Kanga.
I think it was.
Tell us about Galvin and then Jakey Clifford.
Yeah, I think, as you said, Galvin probably for me because of those three names that we've got in the strongly considered, Galvin, for me, we're already getting shares in him with the Sunday Showdown, and we're getting shares with him in the under 24 comp. So I think I can sort of, in the prime time, and the under 24 competition. So I think I'm happy to just have him in those sides and hope that he does really well, and then hope the other guys that I pick do really well. But just on those numbers that you talked through, Dufty, Hines, and Fogarty, the last 3 weeks, they've scored 74, 70, and 80 up against the Cowboys. But like you said, that's 17 goals kicked between them, though, with Galvin's boot for the goal kicking, and that potentially there's quite a few points gone missing there. Tyron Wishart's a great shout. If Melbourne were travelling well, I think I'd be able to get to him a little bit more. But for me, it's all about Jakey Clifford. We put him out as a pod probably 3 or 4 times this season so far.
Yeah, he's been real good.
He's really rewarded coaches that have taken a punt on him. And look, I don't think I can get across him with all of my squads because, again, those 3 strongly considered, and even Hines probably in there somewhere. Maybe now that I've just talked myself out of it, maybe I need to talk myself back into it. But I think that first game up against the Doggies should be an absolute cracker of a matchup. Who knows what the Dogs are going to throw up, and who knows what the Cowboys are going to throw up. But we've just had some unreal footy. The Cows just put on 46 against the Sharks. The Dogs just conceded 32 against a bunch of Q Cup blokes. And then I think they even grabbed a couple of randoms from the crowd at Suncorp. I think our mate Gilly might have got a run. I know he was at the game on the weekend, so I think he might have got a run for the Bronx the way they were going. But this game could produce anything, and I think Clifford's going to have his hand in it. The Dogs have allowed an average of 55 GDS points across the last month to that half, slightly more than what they've allowed all season. So that includes the last 2 weeks of Reynolds and Moses going 64 and 75 respectively. So I think there's every chance Clifford has a big game. Again, he's on the prime time. So if you can't get to him for the full slate, definitely get him into your prime time side.
Yeah, absolutely love that shout. Anyone who thinks the Fantasy Bros chased last week's points, just have a quick look over there at the fades list. Jamal Fogarty coming off that massive 80-point game, and a reason Dylan and I found the podium last round. Look, Penrith Panthers are conceding just 66 GDS points to both halves. To put that in perspective, the Dragons give up 110, 65 and 45, and the Penrith Panthers averaging just 33 to both of those positions. Jamal Fogarty's still going to get there with the boot, you'd expect, but probably just less in the attacking department. Righto, mate, let's get to the attacking players there in the back line. Our centre position, there's no way you are fading Adam Doueihi and Herbie Farnworth again. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm not going to make the same mistake that XRP and myself made last week. I'm pretty sure XRP also faded Doueihi last week as well, so I'm never going to do that again. And then Farnworth. Look, there's one thing I talked about it today with you, mate. I have to bring it up. I just cannot stand when people get his name wrong. The bunker referred to him as Farnsworth all night last weekend, and I just could not stand it. But look, I think they're 2 really easy options. There's plenty of data around that supports playing both of them. Right halves versus Sharks are averaging 50 points, 58 from Clifford last week, 52 from DC the week before. Storm allowing 53 GDS points to left centres this season. That average has exploded this last month, though, where the Storm has dropped off. They've allowed a massive 66 GDS points to left centres in the past 4 games. Obviously, Trell's 97 points last week does help that a lot. But outside of that, it's still 3 weeks in a row of 55 plus scores. So I think they're really 2 easy options. Don't overthink it. Don't be silly and try to fade one of them and get cute. Just play the 2 blokes that are absolutely in some unreal form.
Absolutely sound advice there, mate. Just quickly, what if a coach doesn't own enough Adam Doueihi or Herbie Farnworth cards to fill out all of their squads? Is there anyone out of Chester, Stephen Crichton, Rob Toyer that you'd sort of point them in the direction of, and why?
Yeah, probably out of those 3, I would probably go towards Stephen Crichton. He's found his way into our chats a few times around point of differences. He hasn't always quite delivered. He's one of the best centres in the game, but I think that's more from a defensive point of view rather than an attacking point of view. The week we did call him a pod, he didn't do much. The following week we didn't say he's a pod. I think he went over for 2 tries. So we probably can't get it right there with him. But the matchup suggests there's potentially a big option in him. Just go and have a look at that Sharks game last week. both Iro and Talakai topped 70 points on each side of the field against the Cowboys. So who knows what sort of game the Cowboys are going to throw up this week? Who knows what sort of game that the Dogs are going to throw up this week? But if you want to get a piece of that, then I think Stephen Crichton's probably your man there. I don't mind the Rob Toya as well. We've seen some really good games from him so far. You can see averaging 47 there. The Bronx also allow 44 GDS points to that side in terms of centers. So I think there's some really good options there as well. But for me, the big name there on the list, and like you talked about, we are not afraid to fade some big scores. Tola Kula on that list is a big fade. We talked about him last week. He was going to be one of the best plays of the round because of that matchup, because of moving to the fullback position. We just didn't quite see it, though. I think the brakes were put on a little bit, and it's probably the impact that Brooks had on Kula, if anything. He just sort of took the game away from Tola Kula, and we didn't really see a lot. The Panthers also only allowing an average of 30 GDS points to fullbacks, which makes them the toughest matchup in the comp. So I think for me, I think that's an easy fade. Is there any other options outside of those blokes that we don't have on screen that you potentially like going into this weekend?
No, I don't think so. Matty P, Circus Crew has summed it up pretty nicely there. Lock it in. Dewey, Herbie, don't think twice. Sif Kanga is of the same opinion. Dewey and Farnsworth as well. So, yeah, look, if you don't have a Dewey and a Herbie card and you are a relatively newbie to GameDay Squad, hit Dyl or I up on Instagram, or if you're on the GameDay Squad Discord server, we'll see how your team's traveling and see if we can help you out with an Adam Dewey Herbie Farnsworth card. We want you playing those cards because they are going to score you a heap of points this round. Dyl, can our Penrith wingers score us plenty of points this round? Brian Toto has finally come back into some sort of fantasy relevance with that big double and 95-point score. It wasn't just the double. Obviously, to get to 95, you've got to be doing other things right on the field there as well. Mate, has the tide turned a little bit there? Can we start considering Brian Toto? And if you had to make a decision between Toto and Jenkins, because you were pretty keen on Su'Alongo playing out of position there as a fullback on the field, but a winger in our GameDay Squad teams, where are you going in that Panthers head-to-head battle?
Yeah, I'll throw out some stats, and then you can tell me where you think I would land based on the stats. Left wingers against Manly. So far in the last 4 weeks, Labart, 26. Tui Pelotu only had 20 minutes on the field, scored 4 points. Cobbo, 18. And then Daniel Tupou, Daniel Tupou in round 4, he scored 55. So that was the biggest score that we've seen against Manly for left wingers. On the other side, right wingers, Burns, 38. Setu 2, 60. Isako, 56, and then Nawaka Nituazi, 76 GDS points. So let's scroll down and have a look. Who is the right winger for the Panthers? Whoever it is, let's just get them straight into the side, and let's ignore the left winger completely.
Brian Toto is your time to shine, buddy. So I think, when you click in your winger spot, you see Tommy Jenkins' name at the top. You've got to scroll quite some distance to get to Brian Toto. Yeah, look, it might seem like a bit of a chasing last week's points, but the stats there definitely do back it up. Geez,
I'll give you some more. I'll give you some more just in case people are sitting there going, no, you're just chasing last week's points.
Okay.
Toto against the Sea Eagles, it's his equal favourite matchup of all time based on GDS scoring output. He's played them 8 times since 2019 for an average score of 61 GDS points, and that's equal to what he has put up against the Knights as well. He scored 8 tries against them in those 8 games. He also averages 6 tackle breaks against Manly and over 200 running metres. So there's something about that matchup with Manly that Bizza just gets involved and just absolutely loves it. So for me, I'm just going to follow what the data says, and I'm going to get around a Bizza card this week in most of my competitions.
Absolutely. And just like Sif Kanga, you might be able to find a Sewer and Milky combination somewhere if you don't want to fade the bloke that's scoring doubles for fun. We've obviously seen that trend finally stop, and maybe a new trend is starting and it's all going right now, and Toto's got to be the guy scoring doubles. You never know. We got Matty P with a bit of love for Jermaine Azarko. Dyl, let us know. What do you think about Azarko this round? I know you were pretty keen on him in the past, and he's been going really well, hasn't he?
Yeah. And like I said last week, if he's not scoring tries himself, he's the one that's converting them. We've talked about that damage for Melbourne, and a lot of it is going down the left side, but they're also conceding 40 points to right wingers. So there's plenty of opportunity there for Osako, and I think it's going to be a big game. The one big question mark over it at the moment, it's forecast for rain. It's been raining all week so far here in Brisbane. It's this horrible rain of on, off, and you just can't predict what it's going to do at the moment. And if it does rain, there is some potential for that game to potentially, who knows what it's going to be like. I know the Storm Raiders game at the Magic Round, last game of the round last season, absolutely torrential rain, and it was one of the best games of the season. So that could end up being that way as well. But it just question marks over that. If you are a little bit scared off by the rain, then I think there's a couple of other decent options. For me, one of them is Sunia Taruva. He was already on my mind anyway, up against the Sharks, but he's now been named at fullback, and we've talked at length about some of our favourite out-of-position options, particularly in the wing position. Imagine we've got two fullbacks playing in real-life NRL, but they're in the wing spot for GDS. The Sharks started this season with as a pretty tough matchup for fullbacks, but the last few weeks, I think there's been a shift to their ability to hold out number ones. Teddy, round 6, he pumped out 65. Last weekend, Drinky followed that up with a 64. Before then, the Sharks hadn't allowed over 50 GDS points to fullbacks. But look, Taruva debutising there for Buller could be an unreal pod option in the wing spot if you want to go away from that tough decision of Milky Jenkins versus Brian To'o. I think a lot of people are going to get to Suafai-Longo as well. Is Taruva someone you're pretty keen on?
No, I'm not, to be honest, and it's not for any other reason other than the form that he's shown at fullback in his 4 starts last year. You'd expect a winger averaging 52 moving a fullback is just dollar symbols in front of your eyes because it's going to be a great play. But look, his PPM actually goes down, interestingly enough, in those 4 games. Small sample size last season, different players around him. I get it. But it does paint a bit of a picture. 3 scores below 40, 1 score above 50. That was against the Penrith Panthers. But in those 4 games, he averaged 38 GDS points at a PPM of 0.47. No tries, no try assists, no line breaks, no line break assists. Got over 200 meters twice, and over 150 meters once. But look, that's not amazing numbers to look at when you're expecting a winger averaging 52. Has a big uptick there. If anything, those numbers are telling me he goes the other way, just because he's not going to be finishing those tries like he's got Adam feeding him with those beautiful long balls. Into those stats, it doesn't actually look that appealing for mine.
Yeah, I like those stats. And just quickly, any love for a couple of those fades there? Nawakani Tuazi coming off a big game. He's averaging 51, as well as Dom Young. He's a try-scoring machine, but we just haven't seen it the last couple of weeks.
Nah, you were saying Rabbits conceding just 31 points to the right wingers there. Dom Young is a no-go, and even worse, Nawangani Tuase and the Bronx. The Bronx are conceding very few points. I think just 31 points to all wingers, which is pretty poor there. Obviously, we wouldn't be considering Dan Tupou, but Nawangani Tuase is staring down the barrel of a 31-point oppositional average. I think if you're liking him and you've been playing him recently, this may be a bit of a down week if trends or stats are your thing. So yeah, nice little shout there and an easy player to avoid, given we've got some pretty good options elsewhere. Mate, let's get into the fun part. The fullbacks, and I'm not sure who it was at the very start. It might have been Gunners, actually, and Gunners said the third fullback spot this week could determine a few of those finishing results on the leaderboards come Monday morning at 8:15 a.m. AEST. Latrell Mitchell is just in an absolute world of his own, despite playing in the left centre position for his club, out of position in terms of GDS. But he's an absolute lock, isn't he? Teddy, I presume, would be a pretty big lock for you with the Broncos giving up one of the highest averages to fullbacks. If we're locking in those two blokes, mate, where are we going for number 3?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's probably Edwards at this stage. I'm not sure about it, though. He's up against the Sea Eagles, and it seems like a tougher matchup based on the season stats so far. Manly restricting fullbacks to 45 GDS points. It seems quite low. The past month, though, that increases 250. So I think that's where maybe I think there's a little bit of vulnerability. But Drinkwater and Teddy have been 2 of the best fullbacks to come up against Manly, and neither of them got over 40 points. So there is a world where Dylan Edwards might not get that score that we want from him. the question marks are then over, do we pivot to someone like Reece Walsh or Kalen Ponga? They're back from injury. There's some definite upside, and there is some decent opportunity for both of them. But I think I probably, similar to what we said about a few players before, that's probably a sit and wait for me. I want to watch them a week first, probably, before we see how they're going. Also, Walshy, I think he's a bit busy at the moment. I think he's just trying to organise his own golf tournament, similar to a State of Origin style golf tournament. So I don't know if his mind's right on footy yet. But yeah, I think it just has to be Edwards as sort of the default third option. Unless you can talk me into maybe a Keanu Kinney or maybe even a Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow on the Friday night. If I'm going down to the Dolphin Storm game, I might as well cheer on Hammer.
Mate, that's actually a pretty good idea. There's not much better than being there live at the stadium and cheering a bloke on. That would be a pretty big pod as well. Obviously, the Melbourne Storm are on a pretty bad losing streak, and I think, you could quote us for the last month, or particularly me. I've been very vocal about this has to turn around at some point. But look, it hasn't. We've seen the frustration from Bellamy in the dressing sheds, almost saying, "You blokes sort it out now. I've done everything I can. It's on you." He's made a few changes. He loses Jerome Hughes. Do the Finns, roll over the top of them. Melbourne Storm are giving up 50-odd points to fullbacks. So it's a pretty decent matchup. It's not the Melbourne Storm of old where you couldn't score a single point against them. So, yeah, the Hammer matchup with his speed, with the creative players both inside and outside of him, if he can link up with Katoa, with Herbie Farnworth down that left-hand side, he's definitely the type of bloke that can score 2 or 3 tries there at Suncorp. So it wouldn't be the worst pod shout there at all. It's obviously a very tricky one there if you go against the like Dill Edwards, who obviously can monsters. We saw the hat trick in one half of footy from Dill Edwards last week. It was a bit quiet in the second half with the game put on ice. Reece Walsh could be anything. We could see a 30. We could see an 85 or 90. The good thing about the Reece Walsh injury is that provided he gets cleared from the medical staff, which I believe he has, obviously getting named, it's not like a sort of soft tissue type injury that can go again at any moment. It's not like an issue with a bit of force or something can destabilize it again. It should be really good to go, and that's the only reason that he'd be getting clearance for it. So I'm actually pretty keen on a Walsh play somewhere, given that re-injury risk is a lot less with the type of injury sustained. The Roosters are giving up about 50-odd points to fullbacks as well. We just know that Walsh gets through so many demerit points. He could score 2 or 3 tries, but still end up sub 50 because of it. I think the fullback position is super tough. I'm rambling, I know. Let's have a quick look at the chat to see if they have any better options. The Kinney shout. I like that. Matty Pete, Circus Crew with Kinney. I think the Raiders, in shambles at the moment. They're pretty down in troops in terms of their forward pack. They've named a really weird bench. We've seen Kinney absolutely explode once this season. Hasn't been consistent, but it could be another uptick for them coming off the bye. He's also, Matty P's also going to fade Edwards.
Doubling down.
Actually, it hurt him last week, and he's going to double down once again. And I think that's not a bad shout there, given some of the blokes that we've talked about. Sif Kanga has asked any love for Fuller. Still, I think it'll be a bit of a no from you, just given that he's not going to be wearing the number 1 jersey, playing centre. He might be involved, and he looked pretty good last week, but probably not someone that we can play given the other options we have.
Yeah, and that's right. I think that the thing is he looked all right, but he also looked out of place at times, and it seemed like he wasn't quite sure what his role was in certain moments on the park. So maybe having a bit more time in that centre spot with the injured Jake Averillo, potentially there could be some love there for Fuller in the future. Look, just one player quickly that is on our fade list. I spoke briefly about Kalen Ponga returning this weekend. Up against the Rabbits, they allow 43 to fullbacks this season. 60 from the Hammer is the best that we've probably seen. I think Weeks had a 60 as well in round 6 against them. But they've had low scores of 18 from Sloane last week. I guess the thing for me is I'm going to wait a week on Ponga because he comes up against the Dragons next week, who allow an average of 67 GDS points to opposition fullbacks over the last month. So I'm going to just have a watch and wait on Ponga and then load up on him next week. The other one for me is KO Weeks. I just cannot get around the Raiders this week based on all of those changes. But in particular, the Titans have allowed plenty of points everywhere else except for fullbacks. They're restricting them 42 points so far this season. That includes a massive 2.8 from our man Clint Gutherson in 80 minutes of football. There's no injuries there. There was no issues. It was a 2.8 from him. So let's move on from KO Weeks.
GDS Tom, a big fan of that man, Clint. Alrighty, let's get through the consensus starting 13 for the Stats Lab primetime competition. Big shout out to the Stats Lab who continue to provide an ongoing support there for the Fantasy Bros. Make sure you head over to the statslab.app and check out the awesome tools that they have available. Plenty of player stats for every game. They provide you with matchup strength, player comparisons, a whole heap of analysis tools that help you dominate GameDay Squad. And look, there's a reason why Dyl and I are featuring heavily on those leaderboards because we're taking full advantage of the Stats Lab stats. So our Stats Lab Primetime consensus starting 13. Bit of an odd one there with Leo Thompson getting a run in 18 for the first time this round. You can see we're pretty low on middle forwards there, partnered with Stefano and Ruben Cotter. Harry Grant at hooker, Finef Uiaki and Hilam Lukey in the back row, Lockie Galvin and Jake Clifford, which we both spoke about as big pods for the full round competition. We get them both on the Friday primetime competition. Stevie Crichton, Herbie Farnworth as your centres, Suafa Alongo, Jermaine Asako wingers, Scotty Drinkwater, a pretty handy side there as well. I think that'll go pretty well. Let's see how bench makeups look as well. That could really determine the $1,000 winner. At the end of the round, here's our consensus starting 13 for the full round slate. We've spoken about most of these guys at length. If you've just joined us or fast forwarded to this part of the show for some reason, head back on and hear some of what we've had to say about most of these blokes. But middle forwards, we're loving Jackson Ford, Terrell May, Alex Twal once again with Blake Brayley there at hooker, Tallis Duncan and Sua Wong just favoured as our two starting edge back rowers. We've got Nathan Cleary, Jaden Campbell in the halves. Herbie and Dewey, lock and load. Suafa Alongo, Brian To'o, first name there on the full round starting 13, and James Tedesco with the better matchup, slightly ahead of the Latrell at centre matchup against the Knights, who just quietly, I think, are giving up 30 or less points to left centres. Latrell is certain to buck that trend, you would have to imagine. We've got the AFL boys hot on our heels, ready to get their show rolling. So let's race through BroDown Showdown. A couple of poor weeks in a row for me. I've bounced back with a 2-1 victory there. Cooler was pretty disappointing for you, Dyl. There wasn't too much between Latrell and Teddy, who both had big games, and Jackson Ford was pretty impressive as well, wasn't he? In the interest of saving a little bit of time and any potential computer issues, we have spun the wheel off camera for everyone who voted for Stu last week, and the winner for that was Fantasy Stats. Thanks for supporting us as always, mate. And Dyl, do you want to quickly jump on and rip open that pack?
Yeah, definitely. And just quietly with the primetime side, Herbie Farnworth in the primetime, I believe his legend is still available. So there's still an opportunity to get the Herbie Farnworth legend. Alrighty. So Fantasy Stats, we've got a rare pack there. You should be able to see that on screen. Is that correct, Stu?
Yep, gotcha.
Beauty. Alrighty, let's rip in and let's hope we get something awesome for you, Fantasy Stats, to get your team rolling this weekend. Alrighty, all 9 cards are coming your way, so make sure you hit me up. We've got a Liam LeBlanc, we've got a Phil Sami, Gula, we've got a Dane Gagai gold, we've got a Jones gold, Kafusi gold, Sunir Taruva there playing at fullback, so we've talked about him at length. The gold there for him as well, and then the Kai O'Donnell gold to finish off. So if you want those cards, make sure you hit me up on Discord and we'll get a trade sorted there for you, mate. Congratulations. Well done. That's Stuart. Fantasy Taruva. Unreal.
Yeah. Got Fantasy Stats there in the chat. Good on you, buddy. Thanks for the support. I think that might be the second or third victory for you. Pretty easy. There's only 5 other blokes that you had against you in the spin. So well done. If you want to get involved for this round of the BroDown Showdown, you can get your votes in now. Otherwise, you can jump over to our Apple, Spotify, or YouTube and comment who you think is going to win. I have gone for the combination of Brian To'o, Sua Wong, and Jaden Campbell over Dill's selections of Sua Fa'alongo, Haumole Olakawatu, and Nathan Cleary. Gee, some pretty tight matchups there. And I think you're slightly ahead of me here, Dyl. So pressure's on you, buddy. You had the service. You've still got the breaker serve. Can you go ahead and capitalize on a 5-4 advantage to take the first set 6-4? Get your votes in now, everyone. They're already rolling through. Plenty of votes already for Dyl. I could see that coming, but Matty P has come to the rescue and voted for Stu. All right, AFL want to use this space. So if you're keen to hear how Pity and Haz are going on the AFL side of things and hear a bit about Dyl's success as well, make sure you hang around for them. They'll be kicking off in about 20 minutes.
And
time.
GameDay Cal is featuring
guest
on
appearance.
that game, and he is on fire at the moment. He had a second in champion with a 0 in his side as well. He said he accidentally put the wrong bloke in with a similar name and ended up with a donut and still came second in champion. So he's in form. So he is going to share his insight. Hopefully it's not player 0.
There you go. We'll catch you back here same time next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mel. Do you need that tattooed on your forehead or something so you can join us at start time? Now, thanks for your support. As always, next Wednesday, May the 6th, good luck in this round of GameDay Squad. Good luck for the Sunday Showdown as well. We'll probably catch you again this Sunday, Dyl. That's correct. We're still rolling with that. 1:30 p.m. 1:30 p.m. Sunday.
And it's an unreal weekend of footy.
Three matches.
Three games, and they're probably 3 of the best games of the round. So I think it'll be a really good Sunday Showdown. So I'm keen to get involved with that.
All right. Thanks, Dyl. Thanks for joining us once again, everyone. Good luck for round 9. We'll catch you Sunday and next Wednesday. Bye-bye.